Welcome to Go Find Out, the Career Switch podcast. I'm Jennifer Jelliff Russell, author, career coach, and speaker, bringing you actionable ideas from knowledgeable guests on how to successfully kick your fears to the curb to go after your career goals. You can find more episodes by visiting GoFindOutPodcast.com. Enjoy the show and go find out. Welcome back to Go Find Out, the Career Switch podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Jelliff Russell, and this is episode number 65. Today, I'll be speaking with Maca Baigorria about her journey of starting the UX/UI design educational platform, AVO Academy, and we'll be learning more about what UX/UI design is, as well as how you can consider career switching to this industry. But first, let's jump into my personal update. Hello, career switchers. I hope you're all having a great holiday. I'm recording this the day after Christmas, which I spent hanging out with my husband and our 2 dogs. It was really nice to kind of just relax over the past few days. It really gave me the chance to kind of step back and look at what I like doing, what I want to do, and how I can build a path to get there. Don't worry, I am still writing fiction and nonfiction, and I will continue to do this podcast. But my interest is really being pulled into the tech industry. Like many of you, I have been intrigued by the idea of getting into tech, but I hadn't been sure where to start. So I followed my own advice from episode 64 on how to look before I just leap into something new in order to make sure that it's actually the right thing for me to go after at this time. So to help me kind of figure out what the heck I want to go after, I ended up signing up for LinkedIn's learning platform. It costs about $20 a month after the first free month, but you do get to take an unlimited amount of courses with certifications. In the long run, because I'm interested in so many different areas of tech, taking courses in the different areas that I'm interested in will be a lot cheaper through LinkedIn Learning than it would have been through other sites like Udemy or Coursera. And for most of the courses that I take, I get a certification through LinkedIn Learning, and I can add that to my LinkedIn profile and my resume. So if you're like me and you're not really sure which area of tech to pursue or what career in another industry that you want to pursue would be, then I recommend reading up on those industries or areas and taking free courses in each one. This will help give you an idea of whether or not you'll actually enjoy that field before you really dedicate yourself to one path. And if you don't have money to drop on courses, there's always YouTube. Seriously, a lot of people have taught themselves how to code or do graphic design from YouTube videos. There's a ton of great content on there that's entirely free, so it's a great place to start. After taking some courses across a few different tech fields, I find that I'm really drawn to learning and design experience, as well as UX/UI design. Both are really interesting, but I think the learning and design industry would be probably a better fit for me. I'll be working on bringing on more guests on this podcast who either work in these fields or have a certification course or boot camp in these areas, and that way we can learn about them together. And though I'm looking into learning and experience design and taking courses in it, I'm also still doing the Salesforce administration training because I think that that is a really good skill and certification to have with so many organizations using the Salesforce platform right now. So many trainings, so little time. All right, let's jump into the interview with Maca so we can learn more about UX/UI design, what it is, and how you might pursue a career in this fast-growing industry. So today I'm speaking with Maca Baigorria, who co-founded AVO Academy, an educational platform launched in 2020 that helps people change careers into the UX/UI design field. One of the things that really stood out to me about this program is that they have a goal of making the field more diverse by providing an inclusive and welcoming program, which I just think is super fantastic. So welcome to the show, Maca.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. I'm super stoked to have you on here. I have been seeing your TikToks all over the place. So I was like, I have to learn more about this. But before I ask, any specific questions about you and your journey and AVO Academy, can you actually kind of explain what the heck UX/UI design actually is?
Yes, I think that's a great first question. I'm going to definitely oversimplify it, but I hope this makes sense to the listeners. So when we talk about UX/UI design, we're usually talking about a digital design, so like apps or websites. And UX is how things work, and UI is how things look. So if we compare UX/UI to like building a house, UX designers are the architects who design the layout of the house, And UI designers are the interior designers who design the aesthetics of the house.
Okay.
And to take it one step further, web developers are the contractors who actually build the house. But UX UI design actually does not include any coding or developing. It's just the design side of things.
Nice. That's a really good analogy. And just to even break it down even further, UX UI, so UX stands for user experience, right?
Yes.
And UI stands for user interface design,
Exactly.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure I'm tracking. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like it's super interesting stuff, and I'm going to ask you more questions about it. I did have a question about it because I've been kind of looking at different, UX UI programs and courses, but I feel like there's definitely always something holding me back about being afraid of like getting into coding or having to learn coding. Does UX UI have anything to do with coding, or does coding have anything to do with UX UI, I should ask?
Yeah, so they kind of go hand in hand, but it's not required. So UX UI design is the first step of the process, and there's no coding involved for UX UI design. UI designers actually hand off to the coders what needs to be coded. So you don't need to know how to code to do UX UI design.
Ah, okay. That's pretty cool. And so now, kind of going back to your experience. So I of course, stalked you on LinkedIn because that's what I do. And I see that your degrees are actually in mechanical engineering. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to UX UI design?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. In undergrad, I studied mechanical engineering, like you mentioned. My dream was to like design airplanes. I have this weird obsession with airplanes. So I worked super hard to get a job at Boeing, which is where I worked, and graduated college, moved across the country from Florida to Seattle to work for Boeing, and kind of realized that like the physical design of airplanes was not my passion. The airline industry, aviation industry is heavily regulated, obviously, because they need to, these things need to be really safe for them to fly in the sky.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so it is pretty slow in terms of like innovation and like really being able to see what you design. So I wasn't super happy in the job. It just wasn't a good fit for me. I'm a very logical person given, my engineering education, but I'm also very creative. So I actually quit my job and moved back home before it was cool to live with your parents again. And I was like trying to figure out what I would do next. And in a panic, I enrolled in a master's program again in mechanical engineering, like 2 weeks before the semester started, but I knew that was not it for me. So while I was doing that degree, I actually somehow through like a YouTube hole found what UX UI design was, which is how, I find out a lot of things these days. And I decided like, I think this is for me. It's like logical, it's creative, and it's digital, right? So it's going to move fast because the world is moving fast in the digital space. So while I was doing this master's program that I knew wasn't for me, but I didn't feel okay quitting, I actually taught myself UX UI design through YouTube, through like Google, and just like, free stuff.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, I then used Craigslist when it was even a little bit sketchier than it is now to find businesses that were needing websites and stuff designed for them. And I built my portfolio by like cold emailing people from Craigslist. And I used that to actually then get my first job at an accelerator in Georgia, where I did a lot of work for small companies like startups. And then I finally got my first like full UX UI design job for IBM.
Oh, nice.
So it was kind of a ride that I took you all in on right now. But it was so self-taught, don't have like an official UX UI design degree, but actually was able to kind of start at IBM. Then I went to PwC, really progressed quickly in my career, and ended up in a role where I was managing a team of a couple of designers and even interviewing folks, junior folks that were coming into the field.
That's so cool. And it's so cool that you were self-taught. It's funny. I just did an episode about following the white rabbit, like down rabbit holes on like YouTube or whatever you're interested in.
Yeah.
And it's so cool that like that is how you actually taught yourself. That's awesome.
Yep.
And so kind of fast forward to now, or actually 2020, and can you tell us kind of a little bit more about AVO Academy itself? And hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And,
Yes.
and like what it is and like what prompted you to start it.
Yeah, so from a young age, I was super passionate about teaching. I have two younger siblings, and we always played teacher, and I was always the teacher.
Nice.
I drove them crazy. But my parents and myself are immigrants. I was actually born in Argentina, and something that was, told to us was like, we're here for you to have a better opportunity, and like we want you to be successful. And there's just this correlation with like education and not making a lot of money, right? And not being a career that could provide you like super stable future. So I actually decided not to pursue education, and I pursued engineering for that reason. So all throughout my life, I've always like seeked, opportunities that were mentoring or education related, because I knew that's kind of what like fulfilled my passions, right? And really made me feel fulfilled. So at my job at PwC, I started mentoring some of like the younger junior designers, and realized like, oh, I really love this. Like this is, what I like to do. So on the side, I started helping people that were trying to change careers by mentoring them. And I realized that like the options out there right now for people that want to change careers are these traditional boot camps or these like really expensive master programs. And they're expensive. I don't know if you know, but like, one of the boot camps can cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000.
So
and, yeah, there's not a lot of people I know that have that kind of money just lying around and can quit their jobs and do these full-time programs. So I started seeing two things, which was in my workplace, things could be more diverse. Like I was really lucky that the team I was working in was pretty diverse, but as soon as you left South Florida, and maybe went to some different cities, the diversity just wasn't there in the tech field. And then I also realized, well, it's because there's like a high barrier to entry to be able to do this, career change. Like you need to be able to have money and time. So I realized like the way to make the field more diverse is to create more diverse designers. And to do that, you have to create an accessible program. So that's kind of what led me to start the program. And what it is really, I don't think I've said what it is.
It's okay.
It's a short and affordable program that helps people change careers into the UX/UI design field.
When you say short, was it 8 weeks? Is that?
Yep, it's 8 weeks and it's part-time.
And so now, when you were first starting AVO Academy, did you have any fears before like kind of launching it?
Yeah, so I actually thought of this in 2019, and I spent a lot of time on Reddit talking to people that were considering it and just trying to understand their pain points and why they weren't making the career change. And I created the curriculum back then, and I tested it with a small group of people, just like any designer would do. And for a long time, I stopped myself from starting the program, honestly, because I was scared of success. And I was scared that we wouldn't be able to help people and we would let them down. Adult education is really hard field to crack. And I just want to make sure we could really make a difference. So until the pandemic started, I really was holding myself back. And at that point, I just told myself, like, I can't say I don't have time anymore. All I have is time. So let's just try, right? And that's kind of when we got started in full force.
That's awesome. What would you say that like your biggest challenge has been in either starting or operating AVO Academy?
I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I'm really good at our product. I'm really good at helping these students and mentoring them. As you're growing a company, there's a lot of other things that go into it. So like a lot of HR, budgeting, spreadsheets. And for me, that's difficult, right? Like all the HR finance activities. To this date, we have a team of over 22 staff members, including mentors, marketing, sales. So we want to make sure, especially our mentors that we hired, can upkeep the standards of our program that really set us apart from other programs. So that has been, for me personally, the biggest challenge is doing a lot of the stuff that I know I'm not really great at, which very recently I brought on a co-founder to help me with this.
Nice.
But growing a team so fast definitely was not easy.
Can imagine it can kind of get away from you if you're not like careful.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so let's kind of shift and talk a little bit more about AVO Academy itself and like the programs. So we mentioned that is it the foundations program that's 8 weeks?
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. So the UXUI foundations program is 8 weeks. But can like anyone become a student, even if they don't have any kind of like tech background or design background?
Yeah. So the bulk of our students don't have a tech or design background. We have folks that are teachers, healthcare workers,
Wow.
recent college students that, maybe studied something and they weren't sure what they wanted to do. Moms that took time off and now are wanting to go back into the field, but they didn't really like what they were doing before they took time off. So really, all sorts of backgrounds. And we tailor the course to like your learning style and like your tech abilities and, all the things that make us diverse and unique individuals as well.
That's pretty neat. So it's not just here's some modules, go for it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And so we have unlimited mentoring. That's like one of our I think, strengths. And you can jump on a Zoom call one-on-one with any of our many mentors as many times a week as you want. So for that, we equip our mentors with like, the learning styles and the strengths of the students so they can help the student in the way that they're going to best be successful in the course.
And if someone is like thinking of switching careers, would you say that AVO Academy is something that they could maybe like do while they're still like in a job in another field?
Yes, and we recommend it. Anytime we jump on like one of the free mentoring calls we do with folks and they say, oh, I'm looking to quit my job and do this, we highly suggest that they don't quit their job because the process is not only 8 weeks and then, snap your finger, you have a new job. It's realistically takes anywhere from like 6 months to 10 months from start to finish. We have a second program that helps support once you finish UXUI foundations, and all of it is 15 to 20 hours a week. And it's super flexible. So like we tell moms with newborns, like when they're napping, you can do the course. Once they go to sleep, you can do the course. Like there's no specific time that you have to be online, which allows for flexibility of doing it on the weekends or before work, during lunch, after work type of schedule.
Nice. And you kind of touched on this, but what are the job prospects like in UX UI? And you mentioned that your program actually helps students connect with employment. Is it the third piece that does that?
The second. So it's we have a 2-step process. So the first step is kind of what we've been talking about, UX UI foundations. It's individual, 8 weeks. You have the support of all of our mentors, and that's more of like the learning phase, right? You want to make sure you understand all the pieces. And then our second step is called Career Jumpstart. And for folks that finish UX UI foundations and they're like, yes, I want to do this, I want a job in this field. In that program, we actually allow you to collaborate with other students, and we give you pro bono opportunities for you to work with real clients.
That's cool.
Yeah. So not only to get more experience, but really to like build the confidence of our students, to show them like, you can do this. Like you just did it for a real client. You just presented to the client. Like, they're going to take what you've designed and like really build it and go out there. So we do that in Career Jumpstart. And then we spend anywhere from 2 to 6 months helping each student go through the interview process. Like we tell them how many jobs to apply to. We help them with what I call, I'm doing air quotes, but interview therapy, which is just like hyping them up before calls and telling them they can do it and prepping them, mock interviews and stuff like that. So we definitely help with that part of things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And right now, the market for UX UI design is like super hot. There's like 22,000 open jobs in the US for this field. And our students actually within the last couple months have been able to find jobs like within a month or two, when before it would take up to like 4 months of, job searching.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's been increasing in how fast students can find jobs. And Our salary range for our grads is anywhere from like 55K to like 156,000 starting salary. And this is
That's
for people
crazy.
that have no experience at all, which is insane.
Yeah.
I definitely was not making that kind of money in my first job. But yeah, huge range. And then our average is landing around like 85,000 for our students,
Wow.
which has been really cool. And like, honestly, the most rewarding part of starting this company is being able to like help people and hear their stories about how their like lives are changed and never thought they could make, you know, this much money while doing something they love.
That's so fantastic. Just the fact that you're, providing that scaffolding for them all the way through the program. And then you have that career piece at the end. Like to me, like I come from a career coaching background. I've done that for 9 years. And that is such a huge deal to have that. That to me is what makes the difference between, like you were saying, like just general courses on UX UI design and a boot camp that actually takes you through the whole process and connects you with employment. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a hard process to go through. Like, not only do we help in like a mentor way, like we have these daily calls where other people that are going through the same thing like can talk and build community, and there's, you know, Slack where they can talk to other folks. So we're building a whole community of people that are kind of going through this at the same time, which is great. So you don't feel like you're alone and all you're getting is like all these no's from employers as you're going through the process.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what would you say that your biggest piece of advice is for someone who's interested in getting into tech, whether it's UX UI design or maybe even something else?
I would say not to be intimidated and to just, you know, give it a try. A lot of the people we talk with that are considering the career change, they're like, I don't know if I can do this. And what we tell people is like, if you're willing to put in the time, it's definitely something you can do. It's something that can be taught. So don't doubt yourself and just try it out. You know, like we're not saying sign up for that $15,000 course, but like look at some YouTube videos or, you know, like sign up for our course if you want. But there's free things you can do to see if it's for you. And don't doubt that you can't do it. I think with the right help, anybody can really do this if they put in the time.
That's awesome. And I also noticed on the website that you actually have a place where folks, if they're not sure, if they want to like chat with somebody about, whether it's the right move for them, that they can actually sign up to, it looks like Chat with You.
Yes. So there's our whole team has availability in our calendars. So even to this day, you know, a year plus of starting the company, I still talk to potential students every day for an hour or two. And then we have like our team members that do it full time. But yeah, if any of you are interested, you can go to our website and schedule a call to talk to us. And we'll just hear kind of where you're at, what your strengths are, and then be super honest whether we think the field in general is for you.
Nice. And so where can we actually learn more about AVO Academy?
I would say our website is probably the most informational, and that's avocademy.com. And like you mentioned, if you want to be entertained, we do have some pretty funny TikToks that we do in our TikTok, which is also at Avocademy.
Yeah, I think some of the first ones I came across were you guys like celebrating some of your clients, like landing really great jobs. So really cool stuff.
Yeah, we've been trying to do some of the trends, but apply it to our business, which has been super interesting to say the least.
Yes, TikTok is always interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Maca.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
What a great interview with Maca. I really appreciate her coming on the show to share her journey of starting AVO Academy and how the program itself works. We actually ended up chatting a little more after the interview, and I learned that she is always looking for businesses who are open to having their website looked at by her students. This gives the students hands-on experience that they can list on their portfolio and can help the business gain a much more user-friendly website for free. You know, I can't pass that up, listeners. So I have already started working with a group of students from AVO Academy to develop an even better, more user-friendly site for my Evergrowth Coach business. I'll also be doing the same thing for my JJ Russell site, which houses all my fiction. It's been a really great experience working with the AVO Academy students so far. They did a really great job of asking questions to learn more about what functions I'm looking for on my site, what my priorities were for it, and how I generally picture the design of it. So if you have a business and are looking for a free opportunity to have your website redesigned to increase its functionality and ease of use, check out the link in my show notes. Some of the things that the AVO Academy students can help with are user experience research, heuristic evaluation of your current product, user journey maps, wireframes, redesign of websites or apps, style guides, and user testing. So if you're interested in this free help, check out the show notes for this episode where I'll drop a link that will let you fill out an application for your site to be reviewed by the AVO Academy team. All right, that's all for today. Join me next week for a solo episode on how to avoid getting burned out by pursuing too many interests at once. Until then, go find out. Thanks for listening to the show. I hope the information helps you tackle your own career switch goals. You can let me know what you thought of the show by messaging me on Instagram at GoFindOutCareerSwitch or commenting on one of my TikToks at EvergrowthCoach. That's it for today. Now go find out.